Look at his.
I'm eating licorice,
Oh,
and might look like I'm missing a tooth. I don't know.
some breakfast of the champions right there, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. Good stuff.
Well,
Good
good
stuff.
morning, everybody.
Hey, 714ers, how are you?
Woo!
It's Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
Wednesday. It's not Wednesday for Pastor Nate and I. It's Tuesday afternoon, but
Mhm.
this was the time that we had a chance to record. So if you want to open up your Bibles as we goof around here a little bit to Psalm 18,
Yeah.
hopefully we have some power packed moments for you.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Both of us are a little bit timid about this particular chapter, but we're gonna get through it. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
So, how
Well,
you?
yeah. I mean, I set myself just to talk into that. Rick asked, well, what's the psalm that we can do? What psalm do you want to do? And I said, well, let's do 18. And then I haven't looked at it since I said that. So here we are. You're going to be hearing me on the fly at this when it comes to this. But uh, yeah, I'm excited for it.
It'll
Anytime
be
we can
good.
get into God's word, it's always good. And I get to do it with a friend and many other friends that are around us. Like that's about as good as it gets right there.
Yeah, yeah. So we had some technical difficulties on Monday. I just want to say that,
Hmm.
Pastor Brock and I, but it did come on Tuesday around 6:30 a.m. So Sue and I
So
watched Mondays on Tuesday at 6:30, and then we watched Pastor Brian Mitchell do Tuesdays at
yeah.
7:14. So and
Quite
now
simply, the Monday got rained out, and so you just pulled a double header,
that's it.
back to back, old fashioned double header. So
That's it. That's it. So uh, it's funny that you say that because this particular Psalm 18, is actually what I heard some commentators say kind of a do-over of 2 Samuel 22.
mm,
So I look back to 2 Samuel 22 and wow, almost word for word. A few things a little bit differently adjusted here, adjusted there. But yeah, this is basically 2 Samuel 22 that we're going to
well, there we
read.
go.
How about
Look
that?
at that. Two chapters at once, huh? Let's
Yeah,
do it.
not a double header. Here we go. Let me open up. Let's see. Is there anything that we need to get out of the way? I don't think there
Like
is.
housekeeping. No, share this up. That's about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, sure. Yeah, that'd be good. So I've got a paragraph that I just want to read opening this particular Psalm 18 up. So here it is. The theme of this psalm is David's gratitude for deliverance and victory. David knew the only sure way to be delivered from the surrounding evil was to call upon God for help and strength. David sang this song to the Lord on the day the Lord rescued him from all of his enemies and from Saul. So I'm just doing an assuming here. I know that's kind of dangerous.
Mm.
So I'm assuming Psalm chapter 18 is a song that David sang to the Lord. I don't know what tune. So just, and bear with me. I'm not going to sing.
Oh, wait a no, hold on, no. You can't open that way and then not actually.
No. So let me just say this. So I tried to sing this psalm, and boy, did I butcher it. Man, it was bad. But the words are still there. I didn't know what tune it would be to, but
Yeah.
it would be cool to take this particular psalm, and it's quite long. It's 51 verses long, to put it into a song. I don't know if you could memorize it or not, but anyway. So I'm just assuming that David sang this psalm to the Lord. So we believe this psalm, twice recorded in scripture with minor variations both here and in 2 Samuel 22, which I spoke about, actually speaks from two contexts. Here, according to the title, it was sung first from David's victory over Saul and receiving the throne of Israel. And in 2 Samuel, David sang it as a grateful retrospect over his entire life.
Mm.
Just kind of some, interesting little tidbits there to start us out. So I don't know if we want to read through this, if there's just some things that we just want to pick out that might be interesting to us. But I'll start out, however, okay? And I'm going to start out right from the beginning, 1 through 3, and I've got a couple notes on that, and I'll just read 1 through 3. Okay. I love you, Lord. You are my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my savior. My God is my rock, in whom I find protection. He is my shield, the power that saves me, and my place of safety. Verse 3, I called on the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and he saved me from my enemies. I mean, that right there can take 5 hours of talk. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Those are pretty awesome scriptures. So he talks about loving the Lord, and he made this declaration, that I will love you, O Lord. He decided to love the Lord, and I asked myself, and this may sound a little peculiar, why? Why? I ask pretty goofy questions at times, and the reason behind that, or the answer behind that question, is pretty simple. In these first 3 verses, it says, because the Lord delivered him. He was grateful that the years of trouble that had come, something good and necessary in his life need to be fixed, or he needed transformed. That's basically what it is. That word transformed is a pretty cool word. So I found this. The Hebrew text explains, I will love thee dearly and entirely from my very heart root. I found that interesting. I've never heard of a heart root before. So that was pretty cool. So I don't know if you've got any opening statements that you want to make. Fire away, man.
So I mean, obviously this is the very first portion of 51 verses. Like, it's a very small portion of it, but if you rewind and you just go back, I was even, because one that Psalm 10, if you go back to Psalm 10, like, that's a whole different tone. This is David on the run. This is David being, he is being tracked down and hunted, and like, it's a whole different tone as to where you get here on the other side of it. And to recognize, like, when you say, why does he love him? Well, because he's been his rock, and he's been his fortress. He's been his deliverer. He's been his shield. That God was with him. He recognized that the Lord was with him the entire way. When he steps back and look, he's got victory over all of the situation. He looks back and he sees, well, God was with me the entire time. Even when he was crying out and saying, Lord, where are you? Why are you allowing your enemies to overtake you? Like, just the words are so different, but despite the doubt and the fear and the worry that he had in that time, he looks back and sees that God was with him the entire way. Like, it just continued to lead him. That when the world was shaky around him, the Lord was his rock. Right? When there was no hope, there was no way out, the Lord was his deliverer. Like, when the fiery darts and the arrows are being shot at him, the Lord was his shield. Like, just recognizing and remembering that. And I think that's for us when we look at, that's what I love about the Psalms. This is just from the very heart root. I love that, because it's like the most deepest part of you. That I look at that, and you think about, like, where, like, our link to our soul, like, we've got our heart and our soul, and almost like that's at this deep place that is in the very most being of us. Like, and this is where the realization of this, like, and to this moment of seeing, like, the victory that is had, to say, I call to the Lord who is worthy of praise. Man, it's a great place to be, especially when you see. That's what I love about the Psalms, is this idea of, it just shows it's not just the good that's going on in the heart of David and those who are writing the Psalms. It's the agony. It's the defeat. It's the sorrow. It is all of those things that you can find in here. Um, and so that's why I just appreciate about so much is you get to see this story unfold and see God's goodness through all of it.
Yeah. So you referenced Psalm 10, and so and I love that you talked about the rock, because I want to talk about the rock a little bit.
Uh,
It's got me very, very interested, and I learned some things. So, but what you just spoke about of where he was, I mean, he was on death's door. It was right there. Anything could have happened, but he was protected by God. In verse 4, it says, and I'm reading from New Living Translation, the ropes of death entangled me. I mean, who says those words right there? I mean, right there. I mean, those are just very descriptive.
yeah.
I mean, I'm feeling what he's saying right there, just in those. He says, floods of destruction swept over me. The grave wrapped its ropes around me. Death laid a trap in my path. But in my distress, I cried out to the Lord. Yes, I prayed to my God for help. He heard me from his sanctuary. My cry to him reached my ear. So it talked about the rock that you just spoke about in the first few verses. And I thought, the Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. So here's something that just came to my mind. And I don't know why, but why is the Lord referenced as a rock?
Mm.
And then I started to think about that, and I really couldn't. I mean, I could come up with something, but I found a couple things that just really came to the what did I call that? To my heart root, that just really made sense to me. A rock provided shade from the sun and the heat of the desert, as referenced in Isaiah 32:2. A rock provided shelter and protection in its cracks and crevices. I mean, we're talking a big rock. And a rock provided a firm place to stand and fight, gave you kind of an advantage over your enemy as you were up above them. Versus the sinking sand of the desert. I just loved the description of that. David saw his God as his strength and his mighty fortress, who could and would deliver him. David can't say enough about God, who is, and the great things he has done. So he called upon the Lord, worthy to be praised, and he saved him. It was, I mean, these are just awesome, awesome verses from, and I love it that you referenced where he came from, on death's door, and now victory is there, and he is celebrating, and he knows it wasn't his strength, it was his strength.
Yeah, yeah. And you see him recounting. You know, I was going through this. This is recounting of what took place and God's power in the midst of all of that. I mean, just some of the descriptors are incredible. It's very poetic and beautiful, but I think it also comes from a very strong emotion tied to it, and the reality that he faced when it came to that. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. So just a couple other things. I mean, David isn't some wimp here. I mean, he ran when he needed to run. He stood his ground when he needed to stand his ground. He was a true warrior. And I think that from just reading this chapter, David is, let me think. Okay. He comes across to me as a very sensitive man, a very sensitive soul, who tries to draw the best out in people, and gives them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, look at Saul. I mean, he knew he was his enemy, yet he didn't. I mean, I don't know if he counted him as his enemy, but he spared his life. He spared many people's lives, and David was a true man of God for sure. And he had his faults.
Yes,
we all know that.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. You want
Yeah.
to keep on reading?
Yeah. All right. Let me read. I'm gonna jump down to 13.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded amid the hail and the burning coals. He shot his arrows and scattered his enemies. Great bolts of lightning flashed, and they were confused. Then at your command, O Lord, at the blast of your breath, the bottom of the sea could be seen, and the foundations of the earth were laid bare. So as I was reading this, I was thinking, is this really happening? Is he envisioning this? What is taking place? And I never really got a good answer to that. But I know that pagan idol worship was something that was throughout all the land, and God was the for the pagans, for the Gentiles, was the new kid on the block. No disrespect, but all they knew was, I mean, everybody but the Jews, all they knew was pagan worship. Let's worship this phone. Wow.
Right.
Ooh, let's talk about.
Oh, you had to do that, didn't you?
Wow. Yeah, I was looking for a piece of wood, but
woo, that one struck a little deep, didn't
yeah,
it?
that phone nowadays, I mean, yeah, I don't know that we want to go there or not, but yeah, pagan worship for the Gentiles was, I mean, that's what they did. They didn't know any better,
right,
until they were introduced. So
yeah,
David is again true blue God
yeah.
follower.
Well, I think even when you read that too, at the verse 13, it brought me back to just the description of him being the fortress, of God being his fortress.
Yeah.
You're seeing the arrows being shot down onto the enemies, the thundering, the Lord's thundering, his voice is being thundered through the most high from heaven, and so um, just just once again, he's describing the power of God, and that's the thing when you think about David, like he was, people were singing about, they had songs written about David and the slaying of 10,000 men and all of those things and as you look at that, and they're singing these songs about David and his greatness, you have here, after he's gone through all that he's gone through, that he's, you see this visual of, in his words, the visual of God's power in that, and that it was God scattering the enemies. It was God, the one who was taking care of all of that. And you look at that and you think about, and I think about myself in this, and as just a human being, a man, like, um, there's so many times in my life that I needed to be humbled, and the circumstances, although we're not fun, and although um, I would never want to experience some of those things ever again, I needed that. I needed that so I could recognize who really is in charge, who really is the one that is doing all the good, and then I'm a vessel for him. And Phil, that's what I mean. That's what David walked through. Right? He's in this broken world, and underneath the king who the people wanted, that God warned them about, and who lost his way. And David was the one that he had anointed, knowing that, I think God knowing, like, hey, like, I've got you, but you need to go through some stuff,
Yep.
because this is going to be too this I'm not this is going to be too easy. You if you truly love me, I know you're going to walk through this, but I need you to walk through this, and I'm not saying that God caused all of that, but God allowed that.
Yep.
But then also you hear David say, God protected me in the midst of all of this, and he delivered me from it. And that made him better. That made him a better king, a better man. Although he still, like I said, was still made some poor choices and did some pretty horrific things. Um, God cared for him and had a purpose for him, and his heart, and he was a man after God's own heart. And so, God God honored that. I think, or somewhere, I don't know if it's on the next page or not, but I think it's on the next page. So verse 25,
Yes.
where it says, to the faithful, you show yourself faithful. To the blameless, you show yourself blameless. To the pure, you show yourself pure. But to the crooked, you show yourself shrewd. You save the humble and bring low those whose eyes are haughty. You, O Lord, keep my lamp burning. My God turns my darkness into light. With your help, I can advance against a troop. With my God, I can scale a wall. Whoo!
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
there's just that idea of listen, we are all flawed. We all screw up and we all make bad choices. Um, but our heart turning being can be seen as faithful. Um, what we do with these things and how we respond to our failings, and those are the things that show us as faithful to God, is when we continue to return to him. Even now in your sackcloth and ashes, you return to me, like those things of just continuing to turn ourselves back to him. Like and he shows himself faithful to us when we do that. And because that's just who he is.
So I'm really glad that you read those verses, and I'm going to continue on in verse 30.
Yeah.
It says, God's way is perfect. We know that. All the Lord's promises prove true. Yep. He is a shield for all who look to him for protection. That's what the truth is. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Even here in the Old Testament, that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
For who is God except the Lord? Who but our God is a solid rock? Here we go with the rock again. God arms me with strength, and he makes my way perfect. He makes me as sure-footed as a deer, enabling me to stand on mountain heights. He trains my hands for battle. He strengthens my arm to draw a bronze bow. You have given me your shield of victory. Your right hand supports me. Your help has made me great. You have made a wide path for my feet to keep them from slipping. You talked a little bit about it, and I just want to say this. He doesn't keep us from all harm and challenges and despair, and he wants to work with us through that. I mean, if this life was just, hey, I'm a Christian, God's going to protect me, and I'm just going to go through this, no trouble whatsoever, we wouldn't grow.
Yeah, that's right.
I think what he's talking about here, the protection is, I'm going to protect you and keep you so that when your time comes, because everyone is going to draw their last breath, you're coming home to me. You're coming home to me in my presence.